from Massachusetts originally. I know that's one of the questions I get all the time. Where are you from? You talk funny. Massachusetts. But, okay, what lake are we on here today?
Marion.
Lake Marion, that's right. Who's it named after?
Not a clue.
Francis Marion. Not like a kid the other day. We did a lot of field trips the last few weeks. And one of the kids said, it's named after him. I said, the guy said, my name's Marion. I said, oh, okay. Well, maybe it is then. I don't know. Well, it was named after somebody else. But yeah, this is Lake Marion. This is Lake Marion named after Francis Marion, the swamp fox. And this is the largest lake in the state of South Carolina. It's about 100,000 acres, give or take a few. It's about 4 miles across here, and it's about 40 miles long this way. If you want to get out, nice day for a walk. Get out on the beach here, you start walking around the lake, gonna do a little lap around the lake. You can take one walk around this lake or go from here to Daytona Beach, Florida. It's about the same distance. About 350 miles to get around it. That's how much shoreline they have. Wow. But huge lake, you get on I-95, you cannot even see the other end of it. So most people know when they look at it, there's got to be a deep lake. As big as this thing is, can't see the other end. Average depth is 16 feet here. Right now we're in one of the deep spots at 10 feet. As we get across the lake, it's going to get more and more shallow. But very shallow lake, 16 feet average depth. We're on the shallow end of it. But huge lake, and probably one of the most asked questions we get on this boat or in the park. People walk up to us all the time and they say, hey, which lake is this, Santee or Cooper? Neither one, you must be lost, pal. What are you talking about? There's no Santee Lake around here. There is no Santee Lake, but yet when you come in down I-95, signs there as big as a school bus, Santee Cooper Lakes. So why do they call it that? Actually, the electric utility company that owns this lake system is called Santee Cooper. They own it, it's a state-owned agency, so this water belongs to all of us, it's public water. But the reason they call Santee Cooper, there's some yellow, technically a green marker. Green marker, yellow marker there, red one up in the trees further. I see some up there dead ahead. There's some more mark going through these trees. Those markers mark the path of the old Santee River. Before this lake was built, and it is a man-made lake, what's okay? You might want to grab another chair. That one looks a little, that is one thing I did not mention. Seriously, you may want to move to the side. Some of these chairs, you may notice I have all gold ones on the sides. We'll replace the those because they're getting pretty flimsy, and I haven't even had them a year, but if you feel the gold ones are a little better, yes. A little more roomy, a little more sturdy. And do not rock back on the legs of any of them because you will be laying down. You'll be back a little further than you want. Everybody loves a rocking chair, but I don't have it. But anyhow, Santee River, what goes down here and built this lake, this river, Santee River, used to flow by here a long time ago, still does. Santee River flows into here, down to the coastline. Well, a long time ago, people used to load their goods off onto that Santee River in the upstate, head down to Charleston because that's where the big money was. Well, the big problem with taking that river to Charleston, it doesn't go there. It'll drop them out in Georgetown, which is quite a ways north of Charleston. Then they have to follow the coastline the rest of the way down. Sometimes the waves that wash the goods off their barge, flip the barge, sometimes drown the people. As you can imagine, they don't like getting drowned. Thinking maybe there's a better way to get there. What they decided they could do, they take this Santee River, connect it to the Cooper River, which goes from one corner to Charleston. They either have an inland waterway, you can get all the way from the upstate to Charleston, never have to go to the ocean, faster, safer, easier. And that's one reason this is here, but that's why they call it Santee Cooper Lakes.
What's the navigable depth in the channel?
Navigable depth in the channel. And it varies a lot. Some of it, which we will go across here, is about 10 feet. When you're up in the river, if you didn't hear what he was saying, he says, what's the navigable depth in the river? Santee River, you get some places, if you go up, if you follow the river about 15 miles or so upstream, you come to the fork. That's where Connery and Watery merge. They come down from Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. Just before you get there, there's some 40-foot holes, overall 20s. And then you come into this lake area, and 10, 15, when you get further on down the other end, you get back up in the 20s. Probably the shallow, the worst part of navigation is probably from where we're going to I-95. Other than that, it's over 20 feet. Sometimes you'll come up here during the droughts and stuff, and there's some areas that's probably 6 feet deep. I know during a drought a few years ago we were going in the river because right now we're in 8 feet of water. During the drought about 2007, this lake dropped over 10 feet. We're in 8 feet of water now. You do the math.
Yeah,
This
no
was 2
water.
feet above water. This was land from here pretty much all the way down there. All this water that we're going to be on today, almost all of this water that you'll be on in this boat was gone. So what we did, we'd get into the river for a little while, but then we couldn't even get there. Large bodies of water, nice place, very good for navigation if you stay in the channel. However, it does a lot of S-current and stuff. But that Santee River, that is named after the dominant Indian tribe that used to be in the area, the Santee Indians. And their name Santee means flowing water, which is basically to me a river. So the Santee River means kind of river. That's how we got its name. Now Lake Marion named after Swamp Rock, Francis Marion, as mentioned earlier. This was his stomping ground. During the American Revolutionary War, he'd come out of the swamp area, and a Britisher coming by, walking down the road, whistling a happy tune, he'd pick off a few of them. Next thing you know, he retreats back to the swamp. They get in pursuit. He stopped picking a few off. He'd retreat for 20, 30 miles, until next thing you know, there's more of him than there are British. They finish off the rest of them. Well, he got to be so bad on the British that finally they sent the guy out here called, his name was Colonel Carlton. They said, your job, Colonel, get Francis married, get rid of him, he's really hurting us down here. Next thing you know, he lost the country, which is good for us. But he came out here, chased him for about a year. After that year, he went back into his commanders and said, you know, the devil himself couldn't catch that fox. Lived in a swamp, very foxy, ended up with the name Swamp Fox. That's how he got his name, but that's what this lake is named after. The lower lake, Lake Moultrie, that's another big lake, about 64,000 acres. This one's about 100,000. Moultrie is about 64,000. It got its name from Colonel Moultrie, Colonel or General or Governor. Down, I'm sure just about all of you have been to Charleston.
Yes.
You're looking out at Charleston Harbor, you can see Fort Sumter in the middle. Off to the left or north will be Fort Moultrie. Used to be Fort Sullivan. Well, during the American Revolutionary War again, Moultrie got called in, said, hey, help us out, they're going to be bombarding us, what can you do? He built a row of palmetto logs, palm trees. Built another one 16 feet back, filled the middle with sand. British came, bombarded, cannonballs bounced off the wall, saved the day, you're a hero. We'll name a lot of things after you, lakes and everything that you don't even know are going to be built yet. Well, that was Colonel Moultrie, that's how he got named. In fact, Colonel Moultrie has one big claim to fame that a lot of people don't know about. While his men were active, all of their insignia was a crescent moon. They'd have it on their hat, a lot of them on their belt buckle. Well, they built a fort out of palmetto logs. Put the palmetto logs, crescent moon, put them together, you got a state flag. And it is, I just read recently, the second most recognizable state flag in the country. And the first one is, and I guess is, I didn't read this, but my wife told me, Texas. My wife's from Texas, and she said, I know what it is. Yeah. Yeah, probably is. Texas, number one, probably South Carolina, the second most recognizable. Little PVC pipe sticking up there. What are they marking? Not the guy on the trip we're on here earlier today. Now, one of the guys on the earlier trip said, do they snorkel out here? No, they don't. True story. That just happened 10 o'clock this morning. They do not snorkel. That is for me and this gentleman, while we were building this lake, we're cutting a tree down. We have a buck saw. We're sitting there cutting this tree down. You're not going to reach way down here where the tree gets big. We're going to cut it up here somewhere. In fact, even if you see some pictures, they put scaffold around some of them because they were growing in wet water. They develop. I'll show it to you when we down there. They develop a very wide bottom. It's called buttressing on the tree. Sometimes they build a scaffold around it, get up a few feet, cut the tree down. Well, that tree, say it's 4 or 5 feet off the ground, cut down. We're in 8 feet of water. The stump, top of that stump will be 3 feet beneath the water. And when this lake in the summer drops another foot or so, that far below, somebody's going to hit it with a club, tear up their motor. After they do that a couple of times, they come in with a piece of reinforcement rod, stick it in, put a PVC pipe over it, mark the stump, they don't have to keep tearing up their motor. And you will see many more. We're going into a place called Stump Hole, very appropriately named. and that's loaded with stumps. You can see PVC pipes. They do not mark, and it's just individuals. This is not a effort by any establishment. It's just people have marked out their most unfavorite stuff. But they don't mark every one of them by any means. Just a couple ones that we need for know where they are. So yeah, Lake Moultrie. I'll tell you how this guy's named. Lower River that drains most of the water out of here, Cooper River, named after Lord Anthony Ashley Cooper, one of King Charles' buddies. They named actually two rivers after him, Ashley and Cooper. Only person in the world I know of with two rivers named after him. So that's how they got all their names. But this lake system was built, or started to be built, April 18th, 1939. They had over 12,000 people working on this project. When they were working on it, this was the largest earth moving project in the history of the United States. They built over 42 miles of dams and dikes to impound the water here. They built a hydroelectric power plant because just like most other man-made lakes, this is built, number one reason, electric power. Before this was built, early 1930s, 3% of the farms in this state had electric power. That meant 97% were living in the dark ages. So they built a hydroelectric power plant. Attached to that power plant, they also built a lock system. And if any of you have been through a lock before, you probably go about 8 or 10 feet up, you go down a mile or so, you go another 5 feet, another mile. But normally they build them in steps. Instead of building this lock system in steps, what they did, one-shot deal. 75 feet of lift on average. It was the tallest lock in the world when it was built. No longer the tallest one, but it is still one of the top 5 in the world today and still in use. Down in Moncks Corner. But they built that tallest lock in the world. They also had to move 900 families out of here. And how do you figure they got those 900 families out of here? Any ideas? Money. Yeah, that's a bingo. They do it every time. They paid them up to a whopping $12.19 an acre for their property. Yeah, 3 gallons of gas. There you go. Not even a full gas jug. How many gas jug? Yeah, it's the roof. Actually, Elaine was selling at the time for $3 an acre, so $12.19 was a lot of money for them. But they still didn't want to move, so they had to do some more things for them. They moved their house for them up to higher ground and on a screened porch. And the screened porch to us doesn't seem like a real big deal, but if you're out here in 1939 and 1940, you have no electric, you have no AC. When you guys get on this boat, we're in Orangeburg County. Orangeburg County, before this lake system was built, averaged 1,300 cases of malaria a year. So screen porch, major addition. Most of the people here didn't have them. It was a big deal for them. Very big deal. Well, they did all that for them, but don't answer yet. You get 100 chickens apiece. Everybody that gets moved out here, 100 chickens. And a low interest seed loan. You want to get started in farming? If you were displaced by this lake, you get a loan. That's all it's doing. And that's all well and dandy. A lot of good incentives, but we got another problem. What about Uncle Henry? Uncle Henry, dead and buried, rest his soul. He's on the side of the house there, or in the church graveyard. What are you going to do about it? If you want, they'll move Uncle Henry and the grave marker up to higher ground. Some people said, no, you ain't messing with Uncle Henry. He's dead and buried, let him rest in peace. So some of them got left here, but they moved over 300 cemeteries out of here. A lot of people got left behind. That's the way the family wanted it, whatever the family chose. Well, they did that, moved a lot of graves out of here, a lot of churches. They had to dig a canal to connect the two lakes. 6.5 miles long, called the diversion canal between the two lakes. They dug that one. They dug the tail race canal. It goes from Moncks Corner from the Panopolis lot down to the Cooper River. That's about 4 miles. They also had to clear a lot of timber out of here. And for those of you, I'm sure most of you have probably seen Lake Moultrie, big wide open clear lake. Not clear visibility, but not many trees in it. They started all their excavation and clear cutting on Lake Moultrie, working their way up here. As they're working their way up, a lot of people believe there was a very good possibility we could get involved in the war that was going on in Europe.